Alright, the last thing we want to talk about then is finding the sum of a geometric sequence. You can see here that I have the formula for that written. If I wanted to find the sum, let's say by hand, then I could follow this formula right here, a sub 1 times 1 minus my common ratio raised to that nth power divided by 1 minus r. Make sure that you have that written down in case you're asked to do it by hand for maybe the first 2 or 3 values of a sequence. Other than that, we're going to find it on our calculator. So if I want to find the sum of these examples that you see here, I'm going to get my calculator out and I'm going to follow the sum process like we did in section 10.1. So if I have the calculator out and I look at this first one, this says that I want to find the sum from 1 to 15 of the sequence here, 2/3 raised to the nth power. Remember that the sum was where I'm going to find the value of this for n1, and I'm going to add that to the value of this for n2, and add it to the next one, and add it to the next one, because I'm summing up the first 15 values in this sequence. So how do I do it in my calculator? Well, let's get it over here so you can see it. Now I'm going to do this using my calculator, which has the newer operating system on it, and I can do it really pretty fast. I can get to the summation key really quickly by just hitting alpha F2. Let's try that. Yep, alpha F2. Even if you have maybe an older system, I would try that. And you can see here that if I choose option number 2, I'm going to get to my summation process right there. So I am looking to take the sum, and because I'm in my calculator, I'm going to use the variable x, and this is going to go from 1 to 15. And then over here is where I am going to write the summation that we're looking at. Now I need to surround 2/3 in parentheses. So I have 2/3, and I'm going to raise 2/3 to the variable x, because that's the variable we use in our calculator. I think you could use n, but I just use x because it's easiest to get to. So that's the summation that I want to find, and when I hit enter, you should get approximately 1.995. Now I'm going to do this one more time using the old keystrokes. So if you have an older operating system, the keystrokes that you would use would look something like this. I'm going to hit second stat. I'm going to arrow over to math. Arrow over to math. And I'm going to choose option number 5, which is the summation. Now, this is just telling my calculator that I want to take the sum of some sequence. So now I got to go back in and write the sequence down. So I go back and I hit second stat, arrow over to opt this time, and I want to take the sequence, which is number 5. The expression, which is going to be the first thing in your that you enter into your calculator. Some of you may have this screen that looks like this. Some of you just may have to know that the very first thing that you're going to put in the sequence is going to be the expression. The expression was 2/3. 2/3 raised to the x power. The variable that I want to be using is variable x. I'm going to start at 1 and I'm going to end at 15. I think that it defaults to incrementing by ones, which is what the step I believe is here, so I'm just going to leave it alone, and when I hit enter, that's what the sequence looks like. And that's what yours should look like if you have an even older operating system. So maybe the 83, I think. This is the format that your single line of entry should look like. Now I'm going to hit enter again, and you can see that they get this exact same value. So depending on what your operating system is, then you'll, that depends on how you're going to enter these values in. All right, so let's do the next one here. I know that, and I'll just kind of drag this over so we have it in our notes. So let's look at the next example that I have. Again, I want to take the summation from 1 to 15 of this series sequence that we see right here. 4 times 3 raised to the n minus 1. So in my calculator, that's what I'm going to put in. I'm going to just use the first format, and I'm going to do alpha F2, choose option number 2, because I'm going to do a summation. I want to go from I want to take the variable. I'm going to take the variable x from 1 to 15. And I want to do that on the series as follows. It's going to be 4 times, and I'm going to put a 3 raised to the x minus 1. Arrow over, get out of that set of parentheses, hit enter, and hopefully you get a value right there, 286,97812. Okay? And then the last one. Let's do the last one in here as well. Alright, this last example we're going to look at together says I want to find the first 18 terms of the sequence given here. Well, if you notice, I don't have a summation, I don't have a general form written for this example we're looking at, so we're going to have to come up with that part first. So, in order to write the general form of this, we need to find out what the common ratio is. So, if I look at this, I have negative 8 divided by 2, and that's 4, negative 4. 32 divided by negative 8 would also be negative 4. So the common ratio to this would be negative 4. A1 looks like 2. So remember that the general form for this would be A sub n equals A1, which is a 2, times the ratio of negative 4 raised to the n minus 1 power. So that's the general form of this sequence right here. Now I want to find out what the sum of the first 18 terms are, which looks something like this. The sum, the sum as n goes from 1 to 18 of 2 times negative 4 raised to the n minus 1 power. This is now what we're going to put into our calculator. So if I go over here, we're going to clear that. I want to find out what the sum is, so I take alpha F2, choose option number 2, and I'm going to put x from 1 to 18 of the sum, or the sequence 2 times, let's do a parentheses, negative 4 raised to the x minus 1 power, and hit enter. And what do we get? We get negative 2.75 raised to the 10th power. And that's the solution that we're looking for in that one as well.